Just a moment. So before we can begin, there was a form that I floated yesterday. So you need to fill that if you want to compete in the contest. So I'll reshare the link again with you over mail, on WhatsApp, or Discord. So make sure you fill out that form. And yeah, Mohsin, you can start now.
Okay, thanks, Danesh, and welcome, and thank you everyone for joining us today from Aligarh University. And I'm happy to speak to you all about career opportunities in WordPress and rtCamp. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Um, Danesh, everyone can see myself here and also see my screen, correct?
I can, yeah.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Let me ask for confirmation from people.
Okay. Can you give a quick show of hands if you can see the screen as well as? Okay, cool. I believe, yeah. Awesome. So let me start the presentation now. Present. Okay. Cool. Again, welcome to today's topic: career opportunities in WordPress and at rtCamp. My name is Muhammad Muhsin, and yeah, I work at rtCamp as a senior engineer. You can follow me on Twitter at MuhsinLK if you have any questions after the session, or if you want to follow in general for updates about WordPress. Yeah. Okay, I work at rtCamp, and apart from working at rtCamp, I have also written, for publications like Smashing Magazine. It's a web publication, and I have also been featured on these sites like CSS Tricks and so on. Yeah, so apart from working with code and WordPress and React, I also like to travel and explore the natural beauty, and as well as enjoy food. So when it comes to career and work in general, there is a common advice that people give, which is follow your passion. So I argue that it's the follow your passion argument is very vague, and it needs a more what can I say, more deep. It's much deeper than just simply following your passion. So let's talk a little bit about that to get started. Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about career in general and about opportunities, and also about WordPress and and specifically about rtCamp. I'll cover all of this, but first of all, a lot of general things, and then we'll get into the specifics. Okay. So when it comes to a career, I think this chart or this Venn diagram is very useful, where you find what you love and what you're also good at, you enjoy doing, and at the same time the world needs it, and you have to be paid for it. For example, you might sometimes love something, you enjoy doing it, but but no one is willing to pay for it, so you cannot call that a career, for example. uh, so you need to get the balance right, so that you love doing it, the world needs it, and they pay for it, and and you're also good at doing it. So uh, so I would say a lot of people here in the audience, all of you, could find WordPress in the middle of all this, hopefully. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. Yeah, so first of all, like a disclaimer is that, of course, whatever advice that I give here is based on what has happened to me in my life. It may work for you. I hope it works for you, but of course, there are chances it may not necessarily work. Like Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, which is after you have done, of course, you can say how it worked, but at the moment it may look a little bit, difficult, or it may be challenging. But of course, I trust that all of you will hopefully get good understanding about WordPress, and also career in WordPress. Okay, so of course, a lot of this, like a lot of what I had in my life, is came about by being being at the right place at the right time, which is getting into things at the right time, like maybe at the right time, not too early, not too late, for example. Um, yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the general, like in general, how to create opportunities for yourself. I would recommend, if you can get started by writing on your personal website, for example, create a personal site, ideally with WordPress. If you want to get into WordPress and explore WordPress is like a perfect platform to create your personal site, because while it is very easy to get started, it's also very easy to customize and build your skills along with along with your really how you master your understanding about WordPress. And of course, you should also attend meetups and conferences, which you're doing now. It's really helpful. Yeah, so spend time on Twitter, not too much time, but of course, like this can really help you get an understanding of where the industry is heading and who is doing what in the industry. And also very important is to be able to contribute to open source in whatever way possible, not just by code, but whatever way you can contribute to open source. Yeah, and finally, it's not always easy, but you can try and attempt to speak and also write on other platforms or conferences like WordCamps and meetups, for example. Like first of all, you attend as an attendee, then you can try and speak, for example. These are general to WordPress and to other areas as well. And of course, some more skills. Some people call it soft skills, but of course, we know it's very hard to master, and also very useful skills like empathy, for example, where so Kyle Simpson, he wrote, he's like a JavaScript guru. Like, he said, why we code so that the things we write are readable to human beings, because anyone can write code that computer understands, but the aim here is to write code that humans understand. That is, I see very, very important, so that, your colleagues, are able to understand what you write. Like even 1 year from now, you should be able to understand what you write. So being able to write readable code is a big part of being a good software engineer. So again, apart from empathy, you need observation. Like by observation, what I really mean is like, what are people doing? What is where the industry is heading, and things like that. What technology is dying? What is not like dying? What is coming up? And what trends do you actually like? By this, I don't mean to go after every buzzword, but like that's why you said you should actually like what the trending technology is. For example, I really liked React when I got started, and I also loved WordPress, so I was able to combine the two, while it was picking up. Again, another good skill to have is craftsmanship, which really is like to take pride in what you do, and also strive to be, 1% better every day, like to be better every day, and not necessarily to aim for perfection. Don't aim for perfection, but try to be better than what you were yesterday. And again, not just writing good code, but also good documentation for your code, so that anyone who reads your code can understand. I would stress these parts more, because like once you start working with a company, the team, being able to write good documentation, being able to communicate better, all that is going to be somewhat crucial for your career. And yeah, of course, it's a lifelong journey of learning. Once you get into the tech or software field, the learning doesn't stop there. University is just like kindergarten, where you have to keep on learning to get updated, and of course be basically attend the University of Life again. Of course, again, you have to be open. I feel like you have to be open to like challenges, for example, and not to be really fixated on one opportunity. For example, opportunities do not come always. So, like for example, if you attend some interview, for example, and you fail, being able to have that mindset to take it as a challenge to learn from your mistake, and then pick up from where you fell and pick yourself up from. Yeah, so this point is something I really I want to express a lot more. It has been really useful for me. Being the best at one thing, for example, let's say you aim to be the best JavaScript developer or the best WordPress developer in the world. That is extremely hard. But at the same time, you can be pretty great at WordPress and pretty great at React, and then you combine the two, then you will be among the few in the world who can do that. So what I'm trying to say is like, of course, you can aim to be the best WordPress expert in the world, but the chances of being the best person in that field is hard. But you can also be pretty great at WordPress and also pretty great at, like say, React, for example, or JavaScript. Then you combine the two technologies to create something unique, which makes you as a person unique, to the world and to the industry. So this is something it has really helped me, and I would really encourage everyone listening to take to pay attention to this. Really, like if there is one takeaway, you can listen to this and try to follow it. Hopefully it helps. Again, you can decide for yourself if you want to be a specialist or a generalist. What I mean by that is, do you want to go specifically into one area, like one narrow field, for example, you know I don't know, style components, for example. You want to get very specific, or do you want to learn a lot of things, like maybe all the things, for example, to Vue, React, JavaScript, and also things like Flutter and React Native, and all things. But what I would say is, like, in general, you should know most of the things at a basic level, and you should be specialized in one specific area that you really enjoy. That's what I would say about that. Yeah. So, like, when it comes to an opportunity, like whether you say yes or no is something you have to decide for yourself. For example, like when you're just getting started, you should try to say yes to almost everything. But once you get specialized and have some experience, you should say no to most of the things. That's how you can get better at what you're really good at. Some of the very important lessons you can build as an engineer, or any as anyone working in tech, for example. We can, of course, get better at communication in general, the whole tech industry. Communication is oxygen. You might have heard the term, which means that it's very, very important to have a really great communication, especially written communication, because, like, the world is heading towards the remote work. What can I say? Remote work field. And then, of course, if you are really great at written communication, you can really thrive at the remote work. Uh, you know, uh, remote work. Yeah. Okay. And then, yeah, of course, you should not only try to understand what's being said, but of course, you have to also aim to be understood. Like, when I speak to you, it's also partly my duty to make sure that you have understood what I speak. I really hope I'm doing that right. Yeah. So again, what I told as before, like, we are humans first, like, and then we are programmers. So we should not lose our humanity, for example, being kind or looking after another colleague, for example, things like that. And another important thing when you get into, like, a career, like a coding career, is to be able to take and give feedback. Like, for example, let's say you write a pull request and someone gives you feedback. Your first reaction would be like to defend yourself, like, why does that person think I'm wrong? Why is it wrong? Like, and to be maybe, like, give a gut reaction saying, I did it correctly, for example. But a better approach is to, like, say thank you for that person, and then take the feedback well. And of course, if they are willfully trying to harm you, you can have a different strategy. But most people are not trying to do that. So it's better to take it in a positive light and assume the best of others, and to take that feedback well, and at the same time also give a good feedback to someone else. And of course, like, to be kind to someone, and not just to fight for who's right and who's wrong, and make it about myself, for example. Not to let ego get the better of us, for example, especially when you work with a team. Yeah, few more lessons. Of course, it's not just about work. You have to also look at your health and your wealth and your happiness. Like I said earlier, be flexible. Don't just have a fixed mindset, like, I will work at Google, and if I don't work at Google, I will not work anywhere else. I do not recommend such an approach. Whatever comes your way, be flexible with your career, because we do not know if Google is going where Google is going to in the next 20 years. And if you're going to be fixed like that, it's not a good mindset. Again, to be, when in doubt, do what is feels kinder to you. And also, when you get ahead, always remember to help others. It's the same way someone else helped you when you got started. And again, stay humble, because not everyone knows everything. Okay, like, I don't know everything, and you may not know everything. And so, of course, be a lifelong student and stay humble. Now, getting back to, like, the core of what we're going to talk, like, why do we work? Of course, most of us, I think, like, work for money, because we need money to buy food and clothes, and buy the laptop I'm talking to, and the watch, for example. And some may like a fancy car. They want to work to earn money to buy that car. And and to take I don't know, travel around the world to, you know, have a good enjoy your life, you know, travel around. Or maybe you need like you need recognition, for example, you work to gain some kind of recognition, so you know, to be like a well recognized or a star in the industry. You like the freedom, which is also very important. Like, you know, money gives you freedom, right? Like if you have a lot of money, it gives you the freedom to I don't know, live in you know, live in your favorite city in the world and things like that. And of course you do it because you love to work. That is also very a key point. You love to work and you love to you know, be provide to your family, for example, again family here. And then of course like you like to travel and explore and you know, be anywhere in the world. So why WordPress? I'll be coming back to everything I spoke here. So it just this is just a precursor to what we're going to talk about. So why do we why do you want to consider WordPress? um, how can I say? One reason you can think is like Danish said in the beginning, a lot of people are using WordPress. Like for example, you know, BBC to TechCrunch to Star Wars to Facebook, Google, Al Jazeera, and all these huge companies are using Google, like Variety. If you go to a website today, you have likely gone to a WordPress website, even Microsoft and things like that. But you should not use WordPress just because everyone else is using WordPress, but you may have your like own reason to like use WordPress. But going back to the point we talked about earlier, so like money is part of WordPress. So why should you consider WordPress as your career is the question really. Like WordPress economy has been growing like for the past 15 years. It has seen some tremendous growth, and the economy this year is projected to be $636 billion. That's a lot of money. And you as a developer, as an individual, you know, I would recommend you take a small piece of the pie, and you know, you can do yourself some good by, you know, making use of the huge economy that WordPress has. So it can be like for personal, community, organizational. Like there are loads and loads of companies that are adopting WordPress, agencies building WordPress websites, and product companies building WordPress, for example, on top of WordPress, for example, learning management systems, e-commerce systems, and so much more. So yeah, as a developer, we can perhaps get a small share of the huge economy that WordPress is. Yeah, then which gives us these two options, for example, to have money and also potentially to buy your dream car by getting to this economy. And again, WordPress has been one of the forerunners of remote work. WordPress has like the WordPress economy, and you know, the company that found the person who founded WordPress, Matt Mullen, the co-founded WordPress. They have been you know, proponents of promoting WordPress since 2004, like a very long time. Even the like internet was new to most of us. So so this what a remote work allows you is a lot of all these things, like it can allow you more time with your family, which we talked about, which it can allow you more travel time to, you know, be anywhere in the world, as long as you get the job done. So most of you probably are in India right now, but if you get a WordPress remote job, you can also be on the other side of India, you know, maybe like in San Francisco, and still get the same amount of work while traveling. Or you can also work from a plane, work from an island, work from the mountain, as long as you have a good internet connection and a computer. Okay, yeah, so this is an article about how WordPress thrives with 100% remote workforce on Harvard Business Review. Yeah, so again, WordPress gives you the freedom. We talked about freedom. WordPress is built on the foundation of open source and the values of open source. Like for example, to be able to use WordPress for any purpose. Like if you take WordPress as a software, it can, if someone is trying to sell it, it's worth a lot of money. Like if you try to buy it, it doesn't have a price. It's invaluable. It's very you know, the amount of work that has been put into WordPress is a lot. So the first freedom is to be able to run the program for any purpose, and also to make, the second one is to make and change, really modify WordPress, and then third is to redistribute WordPress, the core WordPress, and the last is to modify and redistribute WordPress, like to a different version of WordPress. So WordPress gives you really any amount of flexibility in terms of in terms of their you call the license. It's very open, and it's very pro like advantages for those looking for an open source software. WordPress is one of the key open source softwares in the world, and it's also considered by some as the operating system of the web, WordPress. Okay. Again, we were talking a little bit about about love and also recognition. You get these at rtCamp, so like you get to work with people you love, and also people who help you realize your potential. One other thing I wanted to point out is like these are the current openings for experienced folks. But what I wanted to point out is like you don't have to just be a coder or a programmer to get into WordPress economy. You can also be a content writer, like person who writes. You can also be like a project manager. You can be a QA testing engineer. You can be a business person, like an account manager or a client strategist, or you can also be a project coordinator. What I'm trying to say is that it's not, the WordPress economy is not just for like coding folks. It's also for people who do not necessarily want to code, but want to get into WordPress, like using any other roles like content writing or project coordination. That's one thing I wanted to point out to you. Yeah, again, via rtCamp, yeah, you can consider rtCamp for all these benefits. Like I mentioned, most of it, like be able to work remotely and to work with open source software, and to continue to learn at your own pace, and also the other benefits that you see here, like for example, working a no weekend policy, only during the weekdays, for example, and to be able to talk, to have a say at everything that happens at the organization, and so much more. And of course, like I said earlier, we have worked with a few other top companies. For example, Google, Facebook, Automatic. Automatic, by the way, is the company behind WordPress.com, and also PMC, Al Jazeera, and so on. And a lot of the companies that I really love, they're not here, but yeah, for example, we work with many other companies as well. You might come across in the future. Yeah, so when it comes to WordPress, there are some myths. Even today, I had a conversation about someone about this. So some people say, I can only work with WordPress if I can code. And I just described that you do not necessarily have to be a programmer. You can be a project manager, or you can be a content writer or a trainer, or any of that, if you can, and still get to work with WordPress without writing code. Yeah, it will start my growth as an engineer. This is something big, like I think which Danish touched upon a little earlier, which is WordPress. Some people think is only like a drag and drop tool, but like it's much more than that once you get into code. So the thing about WordPress is it's easy to get started, but it's extremely hard to like master, because there are so many things, and it's very versatile. You can use it for so many different industries and for various purposes. So you can get started very easily, and then you can customize it and write custom code. So if you feel like it will stunt your growth as an engineer, what suggestion you can do is keep learning and also keep up to date with WordPress. And also, like I said, use another technology alongside. For example, WordPress heavily uses React. So you will also be a React engineer on top of being a WordPress engineer. So that so like it's like you also learn React while you're learning WordPress. So I would suggest you keep up to date, and with any industry it's the same. If you get stuck to one old legacy piece, you're going to be outdated. But of course you can, if you continue learning and evolving as an engineer, you can it will not stunt your growth. And some say WordPress, I prefer work at a startup, not an agency. Like some Silicon Valley agencies, startups, for example, do not necessarily use WordPress. But so this question you can ask for yourself. For example, I personally prefer to work at an agency, than a startup. And perhaps you can figure it out for yourself. And most of the companies that use WordPress are agencies, but also there are product companies and also startups that use WordPress. not all, but some of them do use WordPress. So you can figure out like where do you really want to work. And I'm not fully convinced with working at a startup. I prefer to work at an agency. After having worked at a startup, I prefer an agency. So yeah, it's up to you to decide that. But yeah, okay. So we are coming to the end of the talk. One thing I can tell is like this code. If you take care of the small things, the big things take care of themselves. What it really means is, when you get into anything in life, really, you may not be able to decide, for example, that you can work at the largest WordPress company, but you can still decide to, for example, do one commit per day to your GitHub repo, for example, or to aim to write one maybe blog post per week, for example. So things like that, where you do have agency over, where you can take care of things like that. Or once you have a job, for example, something very small that you can take care is to be able to log in your time entries every day, like for example, what you did for the day. But something you may not necessarily be able to control is to become like a tech lead, for example. So when you take care of the small things like that can be boring sometimes, the big things will take care of themselves. That's one thing I want to say. And yeah, so thank you very much for letting me speak. And of course, again, rtCamp is always hiring. Please, visit the rtCamp hiring page, the careers page, and join us and see you as I hope to see you all as colleagues at rtCamp. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Mohsen. It was an amazing presentation, really. So
Thank you very much.
we have Sourav now, but before we have Sourav, I would really like to emphasize on the point that WordPress is really powerful. And it is the driving force behind all of the web, basically, because 50% of the websites use it. So we need to learn it. And as freshers, if you start with WordPress early, you'll be more comfortable. There was a surprise that I wanted to bring to everyone, that if you participate in the event and if you finish in the top 5, you will directly be able to sit for the technical interview at rtCamp. So you will skip the first and second phase, which is the technical assignment and quiz. So there you go. That is a gift for you. And thanks, Mohsin. Do you have any questions for Mohsin now regarding his PPT? So we can take those now. I think Kanishk has one question. What's preferable, perfect in one thing or great at multiple things? Mohsin.
I didn't get the question really. Like, sorry.
So the question is, what do you prefer?
Okay.
Being perfect in one thing or being
Oh,
great at multiple things?
yeah. So I prefer the second. Like I said, it's extremely hard to be like number one in one thing, but it's relatively easy to be great at a few things. Like I said, personally, that's the route I took. So when I was at university, that was 2015, 6 years ago. I used React for my project, like college final project, and then as React was coming, like freshly out, like it was getting popular. At the same time, I found WordPress, so I was able to get use React and WordPress, learn both of them, and use them. So I definitely stick to the second opinion, which is multiple things. Being decently good at multiple things is better than being great or number one at one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So Yashar's another question. Is it hard to learn WordPress?
It's extremely easy. All you have to do is like, downloading is very easy. For example, in college, you might have already learned PHP and MySQL, or, things like XAMPP and WAMP. I'm not sure. We used to learn it. So you can go to this site, wordpress.org/download, download it and install in your local host, and you have already started learning WordPress. It's extremely easy to get started learning WordPress, and also relatively easy to progress as a senior engineer. And like I said, it doesn't stunt your growth, like as long as you keep learning and improving yourself.
Yeah. Thanks, Mohsin. And another question is a lesson we should learn from your experience. That's a question from you from Dev Sanch.
Okay. Lesson. Okay, maybe one lesson you can learn is like, I do not know whether like I can say, like for example, like I started WordPress not with rtCamp. Like I started an agency, like like an own agency or own startup, and then of course, like after 3 years we had to close it down. So one thing you can take, if you like, is to there was a trend like you have to be your own boss. You have a company, be a startup founder, be a founder after university, like Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. So, for example, we had to close our own company. Then I joined rtCamp. So going from founder to employee or employee to founder, it doesn't really matter. Maybe you can take it as a lesson. Like what I'm trying to say is that you don't have to be a founder. And even if you are a founder, you don't have to stick to being a founder. You can always come back to being an employee and actually enjoy this part of my life more than being a founder.
Yeah. So Mohsin, there are more questions, but we still have two speakers. We have Paul with us.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah.
Awesome.
So thanks a lot, Mohsin.
Sure.
So Saurav, the stage is yours now.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice rest of the evening.
Have a nice day.
Hello, how are you all?
Hi, Saurav. What's up?
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Okay, so today I am here to share my journey. Okay, so can I share my screen?
Yeah, I think you're able to see.
Yes.
Yeah. So by the way, Saurav, most of the people here are first and second year college students.
Yeah.
And yeah, Saurav, the stage is yours.
Okay, so first of all, that because of my name is Sourav and I am a WordPress engineer. Is there anyone here who actually don't know about WordPress? Is there anyone here that, okay, what is WordPress actually? Because everyone is talking about the WordPress and so on, but what actually the WordPress? Does anyone, is there anyone who don't know about the WordPress?
I think there are a lot of people I can see. Me. I can see a lot of me's.
Okay, then for simplicity, I can say that WordPress is actually a software. Let's think about it. It's a software which we are used to build a new software. Okay, so then what it does, I am saying that WordPress is a software and we are using it to build a new software. Then why we just we just not create from the scratch? Why we need the help of another software to build a new software? The answer is that it really helps us to create the things in efficiently in a less time period, and it's really good. It's a good, it gives us a good ecosystem here. It's a good architecture here which help us to create the application, a new software or a new website or a new application in easy way in a short time. Also it is really powerful nowadays. WordPress become really powerful software, so we can make any large amount of applications using a software. But what it actually does is, like, it gives us facilities to create a new website or a new software, a new application within in easy way. This is why we are here to talking about the WordPress. And the WordPress is actually a developer friendly. Okay, so because of it's very developer friendly, this is why the agencies are, there are huge amount of agencies who are hiring WordPress engineers, and there are a lot of customers here also, because of the customers want that, okay, if this is the less amount of time, then okay, this is easy to use, okay, go with it. WordPress really has really wonderful feature that we can modify a full page within a minutes. This is why the in-level customers who are non-technical, the not in-level customers actually don't. But sometimes I found many customers who are technical person, but most of the time they are non-technical, so they want to use, okay, let's write something like word processor. So we have Gutenberg here in WordPress. So if I say something, what is WordPress, there will be a full night of talking. So what I say simply is that it's a software which gives us facilities to build a new software in some easy way. I think if it is still now it is not clear for anyone? Please, I'll ask again.
Is there anyone who still does not have a faint idea of what WordPress is?
Or I can go further.
Yes, Saurav, I think you can move forward.
Okay, then. Okay, this is me, and my journey is actually not not long. It's a very short journey here. So I have started my education in a diploma in engineering in 2010, and in 2013, one of my friend whose name is Joel, who said me that there is an industry of WordPress, you can go with it. And I asked him that how I can learn it. Then he told me that you can search it on Google, search it on YouTube. Then I do it. Then I go to the YouTube for searching for WordPress tutorials, just these terms, the WordPress tutorials. And I found many tutorials there. So first of all, I prefer that my English was not better on that time, but till now it is not good. So I found some my Bengali tutorials, and I go to them, and I realized that before learning WordPress, I need to learn some basic things. So in 2013, I learned about the HTML and CSS. This is the very first thing in my journey. And I really thank to these friends that who told me that you should go to the WordPress career or go to the WordPress. He just told me the name, and it's really clicked for me. So in 2013, I have just learned about the very basic things like just PhD to HTML, just HTML, CSS, and the very basics of JavaScript, not so long. So after that, in 2014, I just started to learn about the WordPress. Okay, then I know enough HTML, CSS. Now it's time to learn WordPress. Then I realized that in WordPress, there are actually two things happen. One is the theme and another is plugin. And in a WordPress website or in a WordPress application, what we actually see is in the display, everything is coming from the theme. Everything is responsible for the theme, or theme is responsible for everything. Everything is visible, everything is appears to us as a user is coming from theme. So I realized that, okay, let's go to learning the themes. What is theme? How to create a theme? Then I, because of I learned about the PhD to HTML on 2013. So I had few templates, HTML templates ready. So I started converting them to WordPress. So then I realized that, okay, then it is WordPress and it is behind the scene, it is a PHP. Then first I had to learn the very basic things about PHP because of you are most of the you are in first or second year student. So you must know about the C, the programming language C, the syntax, the basic syntax of the programming. In programming, actually, we do variables in the basics, the conditions, loops, and sometimes functions. Sometimes not, it's many times function. So the functions, variables, conditions, loops. These little terms are enough to start WordPress. It's the Mohsin said it's extremely easy. So yes, I also agree with him that starting WordPress learning is really easy because you just need to learn the very basic things about WordPress, like variables, conditions, loops, functions, and it's okay to start learning WordPress. This is why it is very popular among developers, that developers don't need to learn about many of the PHP to start WordPress. But if you want to be a good programmer and if you want to be a very large scale of application, then you must know about the very complex part of PHP and a lot of other things also. So in 2014, I don't have started any job. I just going through learning. And then in 2015, I get my first job as a WordPress developer, as a theme developer actually. So on that agency, that was a startup. I I working on the PhD to HTML and convert it to WordPress theme, and it was really awesome. Like, okay, I get my first job. When we are all studying, we actually think that when we will get a job, the job is really necessary. This is why we are maximum of students actually right now in this era, we are most of the students are studying for a job. Not actually, okay, let's try something, let's learn the things and do nothing. This is not our actually purpose. We study here to learn a things and apply in a real life so that we can get a new job. So the getting first job is really it's really awesome feeling. And I get my first job in 2015. Okay, then till now it is okay. Then after that I realized that I need to I need to learn many more things. I become a theme developer, and it's quite good, but it's not much good. So I realized that okay, let's learn something new, and let's find another job with a of course with a good salary. Salary is a big issue here. So then I then I apply to another companies, and I find a new job, which the agency name is TechWeb. Then I in TechWeb actually I build really something big. There um, there are lots of amount of customers, millions of users, and products. There was a classified site, and I we really the team including me, we really build something, a big application using WordPress, a classified site where serving millions of customers. Then I really learned something big, that how to manage a large amount of application, large amount of user base, how to manage. I learned from the TechWeb. Uh, in 2017, I started learning Laravel besides WordPress, because I think that okay, WordPress, I till now I learned good enough about WordPress. Then try a new application or new technology or new framework. Then I started learning the Laravel. Laravel is another popular framework. So Laravel is not much popular as WordPress, but it's till now it is popular, and it is good to create large applications. So I started learning Laravel in 2017, and in the end of the 2018, I get a job in WeDevs, where I get a chance to implement my knowledge, and I work on that company. It's more than 2 years, and I build a really large application, which is that application was a SaaS application, which is the combine of WordPress and Laravel. Some requests are coming from the WordPress end, some requests are managing by Laravel end. So there was a mix application, and my WordPress knowledge really helps here to make the application. So till now it is good. And after that, I found rtCamp. So I apply there. There was a few process to go through, and I get my job in 2021 April. So I joined rtCamp, and till now I work on rtCamp as a WordPress engineer. Also, sometimes I work on Laravel project also. So it's really good, but it's a very short journey of mine. It's not so long. So so till now it is okay. Then I realized that okay, I am working on rtCamp. What should my next step? Then I think that I should become an engineering manager on rtCamp. So I really there are few engineering manager in rtCamp, and they are really talented. And uh, by working with them, I realized that I must become something like them. Like Gagan is a wonderful person here. He is an engineering manager, and I want to be something like him. And besides it, I am learning the machine learning things, and of course also the I am learning the Golang besides of WordPress, so that it, so it's feel like okay, I am doing the real world programming. So till now this is a short journey of mine, and it's really short, but you can ask any question if you have.
So yeah, thanks, Saurav. If anyone has any questions to Saurav, and Mohsin is still with us, so yeah, you guys can go ahead. In the meantime, Paul will join us.
Anyone can any question about WordPress or any web related technologies?
Yeah. So there were a few questions earlier. So one question was that which page builder do you guys prefer?
Okay, so for page builder, actually, the Gutenberg is built in with WordPress. So nowadays, previously we was using the Elementor. Elementor was good, but nowadays because of Gutenberg is built in with WordPress, and it's really good. So we prefer Gutenberg right now, and Gutenberg has a in future Gutenberg is implementing the blog-based theme. Everything from header to footer, everything will be managed by Gutenberg. So we don't need to use any third-party plugin because everything is inside WordPress. So right now we are prefer Gutenberg.
And how about Elementor?
Yeah, Elementor is quite good if the application is built previously, not it is starting from scratch, then Elementor is good.
Okay. So Kanishk has a question that we don't require a degree in WordPress industry.
Yes, actually, it's fortunately yes. To be a WordPress developer, you don't need to be a engineering degree. You can you can start learning things. Actually, I everything in my life, I don't go to any courses. I just learn from YouTube documentations, reading articles, etc. So you can search on the YouTube, search on the Google, learn from yourself, and build something that you can prove that okay, this is the my portfolio. I can build something like this, and when you are applying to an agency, show us that okay, this is my portfolio. This is the websites I have built. Push your code on GitHub, show us your code, and we will justify you by your codes, not by your certificates.
Exactly. Yeah, we have some people at rtCamp who are college dropouts.
Yeah.
So yeah, fortunately, it is the case that you don't require a degree to work in a WordPress industry, and particularly at rtCamp. So
Yes.
as long as you are good at what you do, you can be at rtCamp. And rtCamp is located. I mean, we work remotely. We are 100% remote. So people work from a lot of different countries. So Saurav is from Bangladesh, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Jin here is from Sri Lanka. Paul, who is going to be joining us, is from the United States. So we are from a lot of different countries, and we work 100% remotely. Our offices are in Pune and in United States, I believe. I'm not sure about the US one, but yeah. So these are our two offices, but we don't go there. We work remotely. So sort of one person wants to know about how WordPress freelancing works.
Yeah, good. Because of till now we know that it's around 50% of the websites in the entire world is managing by WordPress. So there are a lot of opportunity to work as a freelance developer. It's good. It's quite good.
Yeah, I used to do WordPress freelancing as well. So
Yeah.
before I switched to rtCamp, so I used to be a WordPress freelancer for almost 3 years. So yeah, it's really easy to get started with WordPress. It's really easy to make a career.
Yeah.
But as Mohsen said, it's really hard to master.
Yes, it's really hard to being master. So you need to learn most of the things about the JavaScript and the PHP. Because of behind the scene, I am talking about the Gutenberg. Behind the scene, it is JavaScript. We are talking about the WordPress. Behind the scene, it is PHP. So you need to utilize the PHP to make the WordPress more bigger or build new features. So PHP is must
Yes.
and strong knowledge.
Uh, yeah. So yeah, I think if somebody wants to make a career in WordPress development, they need PHP, they need JavaScript.
Yes.
And if they want to be a front end developer, which Paul is going to be talking about, he's going to talk to you about how you can proceed with a career in WordPress, be it a front end engineer and back end engineer. So you're going to enjoy that. So there is another question, sort of that. So blogging via WordPress can earn you money. Have you tried that ever, blogging?
Uh, Actually, no, but blogging can be an option. I have not tried blogging, but I must try. Maybe Mohsin has many blogs. He can say better. But if you build a blogging sites and you get the AdSense and you can add affiliates, so there are a lot of opportunity to earn money from blog site. You can you can post every day or it's every period of time, and then you get a good search result, so that if anyone visit to your site, if you have any affiliates or uh, any AdSense, so you will get enough money. It's really cool things.
Yeah, but my personal opinion is that it's easier to earn money by selling WordPress products than by writing on WordPress. It's really easy to make WordPress websites. So yeah, if you are good at freelancing, if you have some good contacts, so yes, you can definitely sell them WordPress products. So
Yeah,
most
sorry, I thought I'll just add to it. Yeah, like Danish just said, it's not easy to earn through a blog. So I also like Danish said, I prefer that approach. On top of that, maybe like if you are really great at content and also blogging and writing, perhaps you can be a guest author on a popular blog that pays for your article. That's again a good way. But of course, you can start a blog on your own, not with the intention of earning, but more like an intention of learning your writing skill. Then maybe if you want to be a guest author on a blog that pays for your article, that's a good way to maybe earn. But like you said, it's very hard to earn through ads and things like this. So on.
yeah. So are there any other questions? In the meantime, Paul will be here. So it's very early for Paul. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. So yeah. I mean, how many Windows users are here? I think it's a nice discussion to do.
uh, Actually,
I think there are quite a few Windows users. Most of us use Windows.
yes. And nowadays Windows become very Windows is coming with many tools, so
Mhm.
we get terminals here, and if needed we can use the Windows subsystem with Ubuntu. So nowadays Windows also become developer friendly, but in previously Linux was the better, and MacBook, of course MacBook is the combine of graphics and terminal, so that is another option. But nowadays Windows become quite good.
So, Sourav and Mohsin, I have a question with you.
Yeah,
For you.
sure.
The question is that if you went back in time to say like 2005 and you just heard about that WordPress is something, would you learn it if you have another chance at WordPress?
In 2005, if I hear about the WordPress,
Suppose it's 2005, you heard that there is something called WordPress.
yeah,
Would,
of course I will learn it. And uh, there are, because there is a full of amount of markets here, there is job market here, there are a lot of possibilities, so of course I will go with WordPress.
amazing. So, Mohsin, how about you?
Uh, um, to be honest, I don't know. I'm not like I would have been 11 years, so very young. uh, yeah, WordPress. Like at least I would have started a website on WordPress definitely and learned and like Saurav said, because like the market was steadily growing, probably I would have perhaps learned, but I do not know because I did not.
Cool. So, to prize you guys, Saurav and Mohsin, so we have a 4-day competition, DevWP.
Mhm.
All these people are there as participants. There are more people. Actually, that an exam is going on for a lot of people.
Okay. Mhm.
So we have got 5 categories that they can choose from. One is an educational portal using WordPress. Then we have social networking website or a forum using WordPress. They can also make blogs and portfolios using WordPress. Also, some website about social cause.
Mm.
And the fifth one, I forgot. What was that? So there is social networking, there is educational portal, there is e-commerce. Yeah,
Mm.
you can also build an e-commerce website. So these are the 5 categories, and we are not judging them on basis of what they code. So it's basically generic. So it is the concept they put behind in the website. Then there is UI and UX part. Then there is the usability of the website. Then there is the security of the website, and finally we have performance of the website. So they will have to submit it on 27th, and we have some exciting perks for them as well. So one of them is most definitely that they will get to sit at rtCamp technical interviews directly, so they don't have to go through the process. Yeah.
Awesome. Very, very awesome. I wish everyone the very best at at this competition, and all the best. We will.
It's a great opportunity.
Shweta, you have to submit the website by 8 p.m. on 27th of this month, September. So do you guys have any other questions? We have 1 minute from Paul joining us. I think Paul is here. There are no questions, so we'll have to wait silently for 1 minute now. If there is anything else, Mohsin and Saurav, that you would like to share from your journey, more than happy to have. Okay, so Mohsin and Saurav, there's a question that as a fresher who has recently got into college, how would you start and where will you start from?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, it's a really good question. I would say, perhaps like the link I gave you, wordpress.org/download. Visit that and set it up on your local, and that's a great way to explore WordPress. There is so much to explore with WordPress. Not as a developer, but even as a user, there is a lot to explore. For example, to create a post, create a page, create the menus, create Gutenberg. Like use Gutenberg as a user, and then I would say get really good at it as a front end, like just like a user, like a consumer. And like our CEO says, Rahul, he says, if you're a super user with WordPress, it's easy to get a good developer in WordPress. So yeah, I would suggest that get into WordPress as soon as possible.
So yeah, Paul is with us. Good morning, Paul. Sorry for.
Morning, Paul.
Good evening.
Yeah. Paul, the stage is yours. You can begin right away.
Okay, great. Here, I prepared a web page of some slides. Let me get the URL for you. One moment. Okay, that's in the chat if you'd like to follow along on the slides, and then I'll also share my screen. Okay.
You can see it, Paul.
Great. So what I did is I classified out 8 different roles or 8 different classes of job and what tools they use, what kinds of things they say to kind of clarify the career roadmap in web development, especially at rtCamp. So we have 8 roles. We'll go through them really quickly and then I'll go through them slowly. So it's support and QA, project manager, sales, marketing, designer, front-end engineer, which is the first person who uses code out of these, back-end engineer, which is another user of code, and DevOps, which orchestrates environments in which people use code. So they use a lot of command line, but they're dealing more with environments than coding. So let's start from the top, going slow. Support and QA. This is a person who just is a gatekeeper. They say, hello, how do you do? How can we help? Let me Google that for you. Here's a code snippet for you. The tools this type of person uses are Google, Slack, GitHub, HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript, MySQL, and error logs. They mostly spend their time checking error logs, going and Googling for a solution, and then getting it to the engineer or getting it to the client. Very simple. Project manager. Here's a spreadsheet for each project phase, itemized by GitHub issue and objectives for the next 14 days. This person makes a plan and makes sure everybody on the team is lining up with it. In their day-to-day, they're using GitHub, especially GitHub issues, spreadsheets, Slack, and then some kind of project management software. This might be Basecamp, Asana, Monday, Jira, or ActiveCollab. It might also just be GitHub issues, which has a Kanban interface. So that's the project manager. These images are from Final Fantasy Tactics. This is the orator of Final Fantasy Tactics. They use their words as their skill. Sales. Let's define project scope, goals and intentions with highest of hopes. Which plugins shall we use and how will they help? How long should this take and who will develop? The salespeople spend a lot of their time doing estimates for clients. What is the scope of the project? How long will it take? For that, they're on the phone and email a lot. They're using LinkedIn and they're using spreadsheets, mostly just simple spreadsheets to estimate out what are the given components within a project requirement and how will they pan out in terms of hours to then make a sale and close the contract. Marketing is a lot like sales, but they're doing it broad spectrum instead of one client by one client. So the marketing person is looking out at the global environment and they're saying, who is hearing about us and what are they hearing? What are our touch points and what is endearing? So what causes people to be attracted to us? They're using Google ads, Facebook ads, Google keyword search, LinkedIn, Google Analytics. This is a great role for somebody who's studied economics or statistics. All right. So once the client comes in, a design is typically needed. A designer is going to create what something looks like. They might design some creative call to action, but this is an important differentiator. On these slides, this creative call to action, it changes the gradient every 3 seconds. You can see it goes purple to red to orange to yellow to green to blue. The designer can create something that says this should be a gradient, but they can't animate it. They're using static tools. They're using, maybe if we're lucky, the designer's using HTML and CSS, but more than likely they're using one of these layout tools, Figma, Adobe XD, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. These are all things that create static results. It might as well just be a JPEG out of Photoshop or a layered file out of Photoshop. To actually make it animate, we need the first of our engineers, which is very important. The front-end engineer. The front-end engineer, which used to be able to get away with HTML and CSS, now is also our UX and React engineer. It's one of the most complicated engineering roles. So they say things like this. The code that they say is on the first block of code, this is JSX. One of their tools is JSX. Or really, to be specific, just this line is JSX. And the front-end React engineer, they need to understand that what JSX is this is actually JavaScript in XML. So they know that when we call Granum with a little HTML bracket, that it's not actually an HTML, but that's a JavaScript object that's getting parameter ID. And there might be other IDs we want to pass to it if we want it to behave like it's behaving on this page. They also know that for these import parameters within JavaScript Next, that for that, they're using Webpack. So this Webpack goes and transforms this small bit of JavaScript into compiled ES 2015. A React engineer knows the difference between ES Next and ES 2015. The tools they use, it's very long. HTML, CSS, or Sass, JavaScript. And JavaScript really, all of these is JavaScript. JavaScript's JSX, React, but the front-end engineer knows that React is the same as WP element. They know that Redux is the same as WP data, and they know that filters is the same as WP hooks. They're using Webpack and Babel, they understand escaping and sanitization, and they understand Git CLI. So that's a very steep introductory phase. For most people, React is a little bit advanced. So easier than the front engineer. Most people at rtCamp start out as a backend engineer. A backend engineer, they just need to know PHP and MySQL pretty much, escaping and sanitization, Git CLI, and maybe they know some Node.js. But what they write is much simpler. They might write, this is an actual plugin. This starts with PHP. It says the plugin name is only search for pages, and within WordPress, this function, it will go and hook into an action called pre-get posts, and it'll run a function which receives the query object. You know, say if this is the main query, and if we're running a search, only search for the post type page. So this is a plugin that would go and make it so that WordPress, instead of searching posts and pages, would only search pages. That's something a backend engineer can do. A backend engineer at rtCamp, it also typically takes our incoming test. If you go to the end of this document and go to learn.rtcamp.com/campus, you can see specifications for what we typically do for our selection process or our PHP assignment. In our PHP assignment, we typically ask somebody to do the XKCD challenge is the simplest. We ask them to programmatically allow a person to sign up for an XKCD comic over email. That's something a backend engineer can do very quickly. It can be done with just PHP, a little bit HTML, and no CSS. So that's the backend engineer. DevOps, this is the samurai. See, this is the black mage, and then that's a white mage, and then this is a samurai. A samurai uses whatever their sword is to cast a magic. In the case of DevOps, they're running a lot of command line and web services. So like command line, Docker, Kubernetes, AWS, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, DigitalOcean, GitHub Actions. They're going and writing scripts, so maybe bash scripts that would run as a GitHub action. This is an actual bash script, but it's not a bash script you should ever run. If you look at this first script and you know that it's a joke, that sudo rm/rf/star will delete everything on your computer, then you might be a good fit for DevOps because you understand that that's a joke. If you don't understand that's a joke and it's intimidating to you to run a command line, then DevOps maybe isn't the fit for you. This Docker Compose is a real world example of something a DevOps person might write. Docker Compose sets up with Docker being a system which provides web services. It configures web services. So this would spin up a database instance and a WordPress instance, an HTML directory, and Nginx or Apache to serve WordPress, and then would allow to run a site like this one using Docker Run or Docker Compose. If you'd like to learn more, here's the creative call to action with a gradient on the end of the page that goes to learn.rtcamp.com. The page it goes to is the outline for our campus assignments, but there's also within here, if you sign up for free, there's the WordPress course. And the WordPress course has lots of details. It's mostly back end, but it's how to set up a development environment, the basics of plugin development, WordPress core APIs, theme development, advanced concept, a lot of information here for totally free. So that's kind of an offering that's available to you at that link. That's about it. Any questions?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Paul. Actually,
Yes, sir.
The top 5 contestants of this contest will get to sit at the rtCamp technical interview without having to pass the assignment.
Well, that's an even faster way to do it. Excellent.
So yeah, that is something that they get as a gift. And yeah, do you guys have any questions for Paul? So one question is rtCamp website built on WordPress, Paul?
Yes and no. I think the rtCamp website might be like a Next.js theme, like a decoupled WordPress. There's a good potential. So that's a case where a front-end framework has been used and it makes a call to WordPress over a JSON API. So the HTML and JavaScript for the rtCamp website, it runs separately on a separate instance from the WordPress itself. And so we call that decoupled, because the front end doesn't necessarily need the back end to be on the same service or the server or computer or any of that to run. And we like to do that on sites because it just makes things go a little bit faster.
Yeah, I too think that it's decoupled. So do we have any other questions for Paul? Okay, Paul, so to give you an outset, most of the people here are freshers. They are first year college students, so they are quite new to all this terminology. So one is saying that, is GitHub a language?
Is GitHub is github.com. Like github.com is in the chat. Is GitHub a language? Git is a command line command. So there's also just Git, but it's github.com provides a graphical user interface for Git. So it allows ways to manage your various versions of your software. But it allows you to keep track of the versions of other languages. I wouldn't call GitHub or Git aren't languages in of themselves. They're more infrastructure or a hash table. It's a way it stores the changes in a hash table so that as you make changes to software over time within a team, you can see who's making the changes and why.
Yeah. So there's another question, Paul. What would you prefer to learn first, front end or back end for beginners?
For beginners right now, I learned back end first, but front end didn't. When I learned back end, front end did not exist as it exists today. Today, if you're able to overcome the steep learning curve of React, Webpack, and Babel, then front end can be a very fruitious place to be. That's kind of where the money is today, is if you know React, you're hot. Because it's a very small library, but it's a library that completely dictates how the data flow and syntax of your application are laid out. So it's very important to master if you're going to be a front-end engineer. Back-end engineer is where I spent most of my career, and it's a lot easier. You just have to know PHP, you just have to know MySQL, and a little bit of HTML and CSS. If you're applying to rtCamp, like the application process for backend engineers, just do the XKCD assignment and you're pretty much good. And the XKCD assignment is not difficult. It's just like, I mean, it's for somebody who understands engineering, it's not difficult. If you've gone through a CS course, you can do it.
Yeah.
From Eric.
Yeah, Eric. Yeah. So I can go through his question.
Will we have to learn JavaScript in order to work on React? Absolutely. Yes, you have to learn JavaScript in order to work on React. React is a JavaScript library. And it's an even more complex JavaScript library because React, you can use ES 2015, you can use traditional JavaScript, but it makes it very messy. And so usually people recommend that with React, you use JSX, and JSX is JavaScript XML. So it's an HTML-like language. It's an XML language that invokes JavaScript objects. And so it's a very advanced concept. Okay, all right. And how much time is it going to take to learn the whole thing? That's a great question. For a backend engineer, if somebody has experience in C, they can pick up PHP in a few days. If they're completely new to programming, a backend engineer can maybe pick up PHP in a few weeks of practice. For learning React, for a front-end engineer to become a React engineer, it depends on attention and talent and background. Like, you can do a hello world in a day or two. You can do something more advanced in a few weeks, but it took me a few years to get it. I had to go to JavaScript for WP. Wait one second, script for WP.com. There's learn.rtcamp.com is a wonderful resource for backend. The front end stuff is still being phased out a little bit, but this website by Zach Gordon is very good for learning JavaScript. He covers React as a core framework, but then also React within WordPress, which is important because React on its own is one library. There's React, and then Redux is the data store. But in WordPress, it becomes React and React DOM become WP Element, and React Redux become WP Data. So there are changes to keep in mind that are covered in that website's curriculum. Okay, great. Thank you, Eric.
So do we have any other questions for Paul? By the way, Paul, we have Muhsin here from rtCamp. He's a senior React engineer. You might be aware of that.
Excellent. React is better than Angular, Ashish. It's like better or worse. I mean, Angular is older than React. I've not coded in Angular much. You can do a lot of the same things in Angular and React. They're both libraries that make data management easier in websites. The difference is React is built into WordPress now. The Gutenberg block editor is built on React. Like, it's built in. Just use React.
Yeah, Ashish, that was the answer to your question. Do we have any other questions for Paul? No, I don't think so, Paul.
Okay, that was quick.
Thanks for joining in, Muhsin. Thanks for joining in, Paul, and thanks for joining in, everyone. So